I'm Davey Wavy, creator of Himeros.tv, and I'm joined by Mike Johnson and Kyle Getz from the Gayish Podcast. And today we are talking about gay sex, and in particular, jock straps, frot sex, and water sports. So pull out those yellow hankies and let's get started. Do you think anyone understands my hanky code reference?
Oh, of course.
We did a whole episode on hanky code, so we get it.
Yeah.
I think lots of people are super confused.
Yeah.
At least you're on board. Himeros Live is sponsored by Himeros.tv, the erotic website to enhance your experience of sex and sexuality. Created by Davey Wavy, we upload erotic videos to help you have the best sex of your life and then discuss them on this podcast. Go to Himeros.tv/pod to save 20% off your membership, which is as little as 40 cents per day. You'll get instant access to our library of life-changing, soul-nourishing, hole-quenching, cock-throbbing videos that inspire deeper connections, sexual exploration, and increased pleasure. Visit himeros.tv/pod to save 20%. Anyway, hey guys, welcome to
Davey. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, no, this is so awesome to be chatting with you guys. I'm really excited that you're here.
Should I call you Mr. Wavy? Is that too daddy?
I am an aspiring daddy, so
Okay.
yeah, it makes my nipples a little hard when you say that. Yeah.
I'll just go with D-dubs.
D-dubs, yeah, please don't.
Okay.
So before we get into all the juicy stuff, I would love for you guys to share a little bit about the Gayish Podcast and how people can check you out.
Sure. Our website is gayishpodcast.com, which has all of the things, our social media, links to our episodes, etc.
And the podcast is about gay stereotypes. So each week we talk about a different gay stereotype that we either do or do not fit and just basically chat about it.
The whole concept is just that stereotypes are stupid, that like everybody has a little bit of gay in them. Everybody has a little bit of straight in them. Maybe labels are dumb.
I have some gay in me right now. The reason I wanted to have you guys on here is because secretly I want to turn your twosome into a threesome. I want to be the Michelle Williams, your Beyonce, Kelly.
You're aspiring for Michelle?
I'll take anything.
Okay.
Okay. Beyonce. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Oh, we now have to argue about which of us is the Beyonce, but
yeah, we'll talk later.
We can pull you in as a third when we need you.
So before we get into this week's video and topic, we have a little bit of housekeeping stuff. First and foremost, I just got back from, we did this shoot in Lake Big Bear Lake, California. Have you guys ever been there before?
I've heard of it, or maybe that's just a bar.
Yeah, because it fits the bill, right? Lake Big Bear. So I feel like each time we do a shoot, we get like a little bit better at the whole process. And I do have a preview kind of montage of pictures from the shoot up on the Himeros.tv blog. It was with Diego Sands, Dalton Briggs, Logan Cross, and Cade Maddox. So it was really, really sexy. It's very like lumberjack, like mask for mask kind of vibe. For all the gays that hate themselves, they'll really enjoy it.
Maybe one of us can be the Beyonce and the other one can be in that fivesome, and we'll call it good.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Beyonce. That's great.
Yeah, I think you just got shipped out. Also, housekeeping, next week, I'm going to pre-record the episode because we're doing a tantric retreat for porn stars in the California desert. So we're going to be making 8 erotic videos and then 4 YouTube-friendly documentaries about the transformation that these porn stars are going to experience while out in the desert. You guys should come.
I'm in.
Yes. Yes. When, where, how?
I mean, more housekeeping. Did you ever find the cat video or get the cat video from last episode?
I love that you did your homework. I'm convinced that this cat video doesn't exist.
Okay.
There's no proof.
Okay.
Whatsoever does not exist.
Okay.
Run for president. It'll come out real fast.
Yeah. So let's dive into this week's video. It's titled Jock, Frot, Piss with periods in between for emphasis. For you guys at home, you can watch a free preview on Himeros.tv. It features Tom Bentley and Max Adonis. And it opens with 2 guys hanging laundry on the clothesline. It's kind of a yellow towel foreshadowing moment. There's lots of yellow in the video. Was this something that you guys picked up on?
I read that in the blog and I was like, wow, I think you actually think through some of these things in a way that like that might have been the first metaphor ever in a porn video that I've seen. So no, I did not pick up on that. I was too focused on the hot men kissing.
Well, it's funny because it's like we do think a lot about what we put into the videos, but at the same time, we're like, okay, we're creating erotic content. Like I don't need to think of this as like we're like the Stanley Kubrick of gay porn. Like it's
yeah,
like,
the oranges were the meaning all along or something.
Right. Like people are really going to notice that. Like if they are noticing it, we're probably not doing our job with the other content.
Although I wonder if that got me in the like water sports mood. I wonder if it's like
subliminally, like subconsciously, that got you ready.
Well,
maybe.
So that was something that we struggled with was the reason. So for people at home that haven't seen it, the video kind of starts with two guys in their jock straps. They make out. There's a lot of frot sex, which we'll talk about. And then it kind of culminates in this like, I guess we'll call it like a mutual golden shower like moment that happens. We weren't sure if we should like allude to it, like put it in the title. We were afraid that people that weren't into piss would be like disgusted by the video playing out. And I know for a fact that neither of you guys are really into piss because I listened to your water sports episode, which I really appreciated.
Yeah, well, I mean, me not really being into that or having not experienced that before, I'm glad that you warned me with the title.
Okay.
So when it happened in the video, I was prepared, right?
It's just like in real life, you don't want to be surprised by like all of a sudden you're getting peed on, you know? Like, so yeah, it's good to have a heads up.
Yeah, I was also afraid that if I put the heads up though, then people are not going to watch it and like they kind of miss the opportunity to be like maybe surprisingly turned. Like I was really turned off by feet until I started to experience it and I was like, oh, I actually like this. So it was kind of, we weren't really sure how to frame it. I figured the yellow towel was not going to be enough of an indication, a heads up that pee was going to happen. So that's where the cookie crumbles. So let's talk about the frot sex aspect of the video. Is this something you guys have covered yet in one of your episodes?
No, and we really should. I know that there. We did talk about in an episode about, was it Goys, that they think that frot sex is the only true sex between gay men. That anal is completely out, oral is completely out. That the only way that two men should have sex is by rubbing penises together. And so we talked about it a little bit in that, but that just kind of made it seem weird.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack in that like sentence. What's a Goys?
Oh, they're horrible. They're this like group of men that are like, men should be men. And so like nothing goes in my ass because I'm a man and that's a feminine thing. And like, I could get where they might have started and I'd be on the same page of like, oh, you don't prefer anal or you're more masculine. But like, then when they go on to be like, everyone who takes it is a femme queen and that's horrible, then it's like, all right, you lost me and you're pretty judgmental.
Yeah, if you're dating a guy and he is like instantly like makes it clear that nothing can like touch his ass, go in his ass, like that it's off limits, isn't that kind of like a red flag? Like, wouldn't you be like, oh, there's an issue here?
Yeah.
Or he's got to find someone that doesn't want to get anywhere near his ass, and maybe there's a perfect pairing out there of like someone else whose ass is the only thing in play, and then they'll just be perfect for each other.
But I think even in those instances, like there's definitely guys that I've been with where I'm like, okay, I just want to be like subby and I just want to be bottomy. But like to know that your mindset is that like your ass is off limits makes me think that you have like issues that you haven't dealt with.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I totally agree. But I don't worry about that when it's a grinder hookup because that doesn't matter.
So if you guys are, so frot sex, I guess for people who are less familiar with it, is it's like the rubbing of one's genitals, right? Like it's kind of, there isn't a lot of anal penetration. Actually, there isn't anal penetration. And it became, I think, more popular in the 80s and 90s as a response to the AIDS epidemic because it was like a safer way to have sex. And the people that really are into frot sex, I think it's frottage is like the French word, which I'm sure I'm butchering, which means to rub. People that are really into it, like to remind guys that anal sex is actually like pretty kinky and it doesn't need to be the gold standard. It's just like one of many things that you could do.
Yeah.
Which does make sense. Having said that, when you're watching a porn or if you're like hooking up with a guy and anal sex doesn't happen, do you feel like you kind of got like the short end of the stick, so to speak? Like
relieved. I feel relieved.
You really?
Well, sometimes. I mean, I think that gay men tend to have anal be the goal all the time. And so when I find somebody else for whom that's not the only reason that we're together, I'm actually relieved. I think that it's great that we can explore other things and that it's not just a race to the ass, you know?
Especially if that thing's a hand job, as we just learned.
Right.
Yeah, I think like a lot of people just assume that hookups with gay men are anal, like that's all there is. And actually, like a good amount of my hookups don't involve anal, and they're still great, and I still have a great time. And sometimes I'll come, and sometimes I won't. And I think, you know, hookups and sex have a little bit more depth than just in your ass.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys are on like a tantric journey already. This is exciting. But doesn't it happen to you though? Like when you're on Grindr or Scruff or whatever app that you use, like there are a lot of guys who they kind of want to like storyboard exactly what's going to happen. And if you're like, okay, like, yeah, I don't know that I like feel like douching or that I want to have anal sex. They're like, well, I'm not like, if we're not going to do that, what's the point? Like, I'm not interested. Yep. Have you had that experience?
No, because I've never not wanted to take it.
You're like, it's always on the menu.
For a while there on Grindr, I was saying, or Scruff, I was saying I don't do anal on the first encounter, and I got lots of pushback from that. And because of this phenomenon you're talking about, like they knew exactly what they wanted in this order, and if I wasn't going to play ball, then you know, swipe right or swipe left. You know, I think it's really unfortunate that people get so stuck into those narratives like that, because sex is so much more than your ABC script that you've written for yourself.
Yeah, in a way though, that kind of can have the effect of like weeding out some guys that probably wouldn't be a great match anyway. Like as much as that sucks in that moment. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to be a human fleshlight. Thank you.
I do. I would like that.
Speak for yourself. I recently started seeing a guy who's really into feet, and like for him, like we've actually like fucked, I think once. But like every time we get together, we do like foot stuff, and I love it. It's like really sexy, like no douching required. You can kind of do it whenever. He likes it, especially if I'm like pretending that I'm asleep. And so I'll kind of like lay in bed and just, you know, do my like daddy foot thing on his face.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Kyle just found out recently that foot jobs are a thing. Is that part of what's going on?
Well, define foot job.
I think like jerk off with your feet. Like put your feet. I don't totally know. I didn't investigate too much further, but I think you skillfully put your feet around a dick and then rub it up and down.
Yeah, I think in terms of like, I guess the psychology of that is hot for me, but like the physicality of that for me, it feels like a worse version of a hand job. Like with less grip, less resistance. Like it's just, yeah.
Sex on the beach is never actually fun. There's way too much gritty sand everywhere. The idea is very romantic, but no, it doesn't work out. Foot jobs are probably that way.
So the other thing in this video is that there's a focus of it is jock straps. A lot of people wrote in that they wanted us to do more content with jock straps. I think it's funny. Like I get that jock straps are it's like sports gear stuff, but I think the biggest conspiracy in human history is that like that some gay man somewhere was like, I'm going to design the most erotic piece of clothing with like full ass exposure, full hole exposure, like big juicy bulge. And I'm going to tell them that this is like for athletics. Come on.
Yeah. I am a fan of jock straps and particularly like wearing them. Because like when you wear them, it's like, you know what's happening tonight. I actually like have a boyfriend, so I've deleted all the apps. And but like when I like show him a peek of a jock strap that I'm wearing, he's like, it's on tonight. Great. And it's kind of like a turn on. It's like foreplay in a way, like letting him know you're ready. And yeah.
Do people even wear these in sports anymore? Like, is it just gay men that are buying these?
Well, I thought the jock straps were for holding a cup, like in baseball. Like that was the garment, and then you put the hard plastic cup part in it, like in the pouch. And I don't see how that's mechanically possible with a lot of the jock straps that I've bought.
They've definitely morphed from their original purpose.
Like you're not going to put a cup in like an Andrew Christian, like, mesh string jock strap.
Yeah.
Right.
With like sequins on it.
Right.
Oh, cute.
We could do some good merch.
It would just say like slut across the penis. Like,
yeah. All right. So the real meat of this video, and like I knew it was going to kind of go there, was the golden shower moments where the guys piss on each other. Originally, when we crafted the video, it was really just going to be about jock straps and frot sex. But one of the models, we're talking about like what our authentic desires are. And we try to film stuff that the guys are like genuinely into and turned on by. Whereas a lot of porn, they kind of just like pair two guys together and say like, you're doing this.
Yeah.
And we're trying to create something that's like a little bit more authentic. And one of the guys was like, I'm super into water sports. Like I love piss play. I've never been able to film it. And this video, it's outdoors. It seemed like kind of a great fit for that. And the other model was really game and trying it. He had never done it. So we're like, well, let's do it. And we did a survey not too long ago with people's kinks, and it's shocking what percentage of the population, I mean, myself included, is turned on by piss play.
What is the percentage? Do you know? Just ballpark?
Yeah, I think it was like, I mean, it was definitely over 20. I want to say somewhere between like 20 and 30% of gay guys. It was higher for gay guys than for just like men in general.
Yeah.
I don't know if gay men are just kinkier or like how it's kind of imprinted on us, but
I think I looked up that data as well, and then since forgot it because I can't like hold anything in my brain. But yeah, I think I remember like I think straight people are just confined in so many different ways of what society allows them to do. So once you're gay and you're already breaking off from the norm of what people expect, that gives you a little bit more freedom to try out different things. And I think that includes things like water sports.
Yeah, like you give yourself the freedom to figure out what it is that you really want and to like experience that and express it. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So I listened to your podcast about water sports. I appreciated it. I especially appreciated that you shared like serial killers throughout history that were
our episodes kind of go in a lot of different ways. So I just thought it was interesting to talk about a famous serial killer who was really into piss.
Yeah, I felt very empowered by that.
Okay. You're as powerful as a serial killer. Right, yeah.
I was like listening to this at the gym, and I was like, first of all, it's like an hour and a half episode, and which I completely listened to the end. But I actually did. And to me, it was so funny because it was like, I guess the equivalent would be like listening to like two people talk about chocolate cake that don't like chocolate cake.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's one of those, like, the stereotype is all gay men are into every single kink. And that's one that we talked about that neither of us totally understand.
Yeah.
Although I will say the video that you did is the first time I was even just watching the preview before I started watching the whole thing. And I was like, oh, like, this is kind of like, I didn't rush out and pee on someone, but like I did start to like think like, I feel like all the porn I see is like in a dark dungeon with some master and some dudes like kneeling on a tarp, and they're just like, they hit him and then start peeing on him. And it's like, very different vibe than yours, which is like, they were clearly into it and into each other. And it was like also sensual. So when they started doing that, it just seemed like natural for them and not like a dirty dungeon.
Yeah.
So I thought like,
I totally agree that something about the setting and the way that it was presented made it seem a lot more accessible and approachable than other porn that I have seen that has piss in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually I watched it with my boyfriend. I was like, all right, babe, we got to watch some porn tonight. And so we like laid down and we started watching it. And like a few minutes in, we started jerking each other off, and then I blew him. So like your video, good success for me. And so even though it's like also, not necessarily something I would think of to watch, like it's still like seeing that it can, even if we don't do it, can like for us turn us on and kind of like get us in that mood and then do our own thing that we like to do.
Well, thank you. Yeah, that's exciting. I'm glad that it evolved into a blowjob for you.
Yeah, inspired a blowjob.
We can put that as a quote somewhere on the site.
Sure.
Are you an exclusive bottom?
No, but like actually, so in my last relationship, I was mostly the top, which everyone thinks because of how much I talk about loving to get fucked, which is very true. But like, then everyone just places me in the bottom category. So yeah, this relationship though, I'm mostly the bottom, and I enjoy that.
Because you had like a massive Boomer Banks penis, and you have a tiny butthole. Like you had no other options.
That's very true. That is one. That's one thing people know way too much about me and my butthole. But like, I've heard y'all on your podcast talking about dick sizes and people being like worried about their dick size. And for me, I always want to say like, I have a medically confirmed tiny butthole. Like a doctor has been putting her finger in me, and she was like, your sphincter is very tight. I was like, oh, okay, thank you, ma'am. Like it was very, but like that.
I've seen a lot of porns that also start that way, but it won't be when I'm done with it.
But like, so giant dicks are like, whew, you got to like do your work. But so like sometimes people with smaller dicks are actually preferable for me. So hopefully that inspires some people to be a little bit more confident in their dick size.
Okay. Yeah, that makes where I was trying to go with this was like, and since you do enjoy bottoming, do you ever get into like the sub dom kind of play? You do.
Yeah. I really enjoy like things like getting choked or like getting thrown around or getting hit lightly.
See, I feel like you are kind of like at the cusp of like potentially being into piss play, because you guys talked in your podcast about like the warmth of the pee and like the physical sensation, which is like whatever, or like the taste of the pee. But for me, like what really makes it hot is that it's like, it is a power thing. Like it's, I'd say like almost a form of like worship. Like for someone to express their devotion by like drinking your golden nectar or something. or
that was a very magical way of describing.
It's actually in my notes here.
Okay, good. Yeah, I think I agree, and that's actually what I think that the setting that you presented actually, and that idea of, oh, maybe someone can use it in a way that's more about domination, and then if someone was like, here's what I'm going to do to you, get on your knees, I'd be like, yep, whatever it is, we're doing that. So yeah, I definitely think the like more domination and being receptive to their outpourings could be hot.
Yeah. So to be fair, I've only like experienced piss play twice, and it was once as the P-top. Is that the
yeah, great. Yeah.
The pisser. and once as the piss. Yeah. Both were fun. First I did it as the pissy, and both instances happened in a shower, which I think especially if you're like just kind of getting started with it is definitely better than like literally like rolling out the tarp in your living room or like cleaning up the mess. And the guy that was peeing on me was super into it. And I was like, all right, I'm just gonna like take it on my butt. Like he can just pee it, like that's like a low level of commitment.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as he started peeing, I was like, man, this is only gonna last for like 30 seconds. Like I really better like, like something just came over me and I spun around and just like stuck my face in it. And I was just like basking in, in his piss. What I didn't anticipate, and I learned this for my second experience, was that we didn't have the shower running. And so then you kind of have this moment when like the pee is no longer coming out of the tap and you're just like kneeling in a shower, like covered in cold piss, like, and it smells. And it's kind of, so that wasn't that hot.
There's the mechanics of it that you got to work through. Like when you come and you're like laying there and you're like, okay, well now I'm covered in cum, and how do I get to the towel? It's like there's a part of it that you got to like pre-plan.
There's a rock bottom moment that kind of like happens. You're like, okay, yeah, I did that. Whereas if you keep the shower running, it kind of just all like it just kind of comes off, and it's very. So the second time I did it, I was the pisser, and the guy came to my hotel room, and like it was kind of, this is what the plan was. And I had been drinking water all morning, and I was like, girl, you got like 30 seconds to get here because like I'm going to burst. And it's actually physically difficult to like get yourself to pee on someone. Like it's kind of like a pee fright.
Yeah. Like, well, you're trained to not pee in front of other people and on people. Like it's like, yeah, I think that discomfort of like someone else is in the bathroom. And so I gotta like, get over that. Like, and that's not even them looking at you. It's just someone else is here.
Well, and being with an erection is really hard. Do you have to like be soft to do that? Because I think that there's like your plumbing, your mechanics have, if you're erect, that it's harder, actually physically harder to pee.
Yeah, I think it's like psychological and physically, like it's just it is difficult to pee on someone, like especially when you're turned on. And I was definitely turned on. So what ended up happening was it was kind of like a half stream, because like you're trying to pee, but like not a lot's coming out. But like therefore, and I had to pee really bad, so it like lasted for like 4 minutes of just like me like peeing on this guy, and it's just like it was very involved, but it was hot, and I think ultimately what made it hot in both instances was that like the other guy was really into it. It wasn't like so anyway, I just as someone who has kind of appreciated piss play a little bit, if you feel some sort of inclination, I would say like there's kind of some fun ways to lean into it that like don't have to be as scary as like the dungeon.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, you said that Kyle might be on the cusp of it. How does somebody know that that's something they want to do? Like, do you have an inkling all the time and then you have the opportunity? Or is this, you could go from zero, never thought about it before, to, yes, this is for me?
Splash Mountain.
Splash Mountain. I think in all the instances where I've discovered like a sexual interest or fetish that I didn't know I had, it's been through actually trying it. And we have a tantric coach who always says that like tantra is it's always an experiment. And like, sometimes you try something and you really like it. Sometimes you try it and you don't, and you kind of just like, you're just open and regard yourself as more of like an explorer. And like trying piss play once doesn't mean that like this is going to be, it's just this one instance where you're trying it. And I think that's kind of how I've like figured those things out. So, but then I'm sure there's other people who like just know it, like who are so into it that they, watch the porn and are really turned on by it. But I don't know, I've learned from doing.
My sexual history is so vanilla, and I keep wondering if I just haven't stumbled across the right thing yet.
Yeah, I also kind of wonder if like as we get older, the reason we tend to get kinkier is maybe because like at some like are we just more open and sexually exploring, or are we getting bored with the sex that we're maybe both? Like
I feel like as I get older, I've been open to more different type of men than I used to be, and I think part of that is just growing and experiencing new types of people and letting go of some of the stereotypes and like things in my past, and just meeting a different types of people, and so that's like really expanded who I'm interested in, which is a lot of fun because you walk down the street and everyone's sexy, and it's like fun to walk around and see that. So like I think the same can be true of kinks, is like you're kind of willing to let go of some of your preconceived ideas about what sex should be, and are willing to explore a little bit more openly.
What has changed in you that's like made you more like receptive to other guys being sexy that might be outside whatever your traditional type was?
Man, I have no idea. I don't know. Maybe I'm just like more horny all the time. So I have no idea what it was, but it's been in like the last year or so that like, maybe it's like being like, I had a very recent slut phase. So I was just like hooking up left and right on Grindr. I also love my boyfriend. I should throw that out there. Hi. Okay. But yeah, so I like just trying different kinds of guys and realizing that like guys that I used to think are super hot and you're my type, like when you get with them, like sometimes they're boring and dull, and sometimes the guys that you wouldn't expect are the ones that the sex is the hottest with. So I think it's just being willing to try things out.
Yeah, one of our tantric instructors was saying that like he doesn't care like a guy's height, shape, size, color, age. He said sometimes he doesn't even care about gender. Like he's able to, if you just show up as someone that wants to have hot, life-giving, ecstatic sex, that like he's on board with it. And I mean, for me, I'm like, okay, I'm not quite, I'm like, that sounds beautiful. I'm not quite, yeah. I feel like I'm still a little bit too shallow, but what an incredible thing to like lean into. That's why I was curious how that like transition has started to happen for you.
Yeah, I think it's also like valuing people's mind as part of sex, like valuing their personality and who they are that can be sexy. Cause like, even when you're like on a hookup and you want the sexy talk and you want someone that's like into it, like if they're like horrible at spelling or if they are really bad at like carrying on a conversation, I'm just like over it. Like it turns me off. So I think there's also something about like recognizing a connection that goes beyond just the physical.
Yeah. Don't you hate that when you like go on a date and you're like, man, because I would have totally like fucked you, but now that I know.
Yeah. Did I douche my ass for this? Like,
right. And had we just skipped the date and just fucked, like it would have been fine. And like we would have never known the difference, but
100%. Yeah. Okay. I wanted to ask something about the video. The first guy that peed on the other guy lying down, that was like multiple. He like rehydrated, and you shot that multiple times, right?
I was going to ask exactly that thing. That was like some Tom Hanks in League of Their Own level pissing. But like when he
do you really? You think so?
It lasted
forever.
I thought it was like a bear waking up from hibernation that was like just really had to go. It lasted so long.
I don't remember thinking that it was a particularly long piss. I wonder if when we edited it, if it because we shoot a lot of stuff in like higher frame rate, so we can slow it down. Mm-hmm. Did it feel like it was in real time or did it feel like slow motion?
It definitely felt slower, which I think added to like the sensual, like up front, like added to the feeling of it's sensual. They're into each other, and it's not going to be just, you know, jumping your ass right away. But yeah, but even though I know it's slower, it still seemed like he was peeing forever, which if that was one take is very impressive.
Well, he was peeing through his jock too, right? To start with.
At
so maybe
first.
That was like a dam holding it back. Like there was a filter there.
Maybe.
Well, that's also a specific fetish, is like wetting your underwear.
Yeah.
Well, even what you're saying about like, you really had to pee and you were like, you better get over here. Like there's a fetish around just like having a really full bladder.
And just holding it.
Just the urgency of it, yeah.
Huh. Okay, I don't understand that one, but
but do it. If you want to, hold it as long as you want.
Yeah, is it because it like puts like pressure on your prostate, or is it just the act of holding and like the anticipation?
I'm drinking a lot of rosé, so I'll tell you in about like 5 minutes what's good about it.
They also did know that they were filming like a water sports scene, obviously, so I wonder if there may have been like an above average amount of hydration going on.
Sure.
Definitely looked clear, which says well hydrated.
Yeah.
It's also, I mean, the umbrella of water sports it's really broad. So you have like the golden showers. There's people who enjoy like pissing inside each other's mouths, drinking pee, peeing through their clothes. Like there's a whole bathing in pee. There's people that are into like just like swimming in it. There's a lot under that umbrella. So I feel like, you know, it's like going to like a buffet and you can kind of like, there's got to be something on the menu that you're gonna maybe be into.
Like a human urinal guy, the guy that like to lay in trough urinals and just get peed on by multiple strangers.
I told you not to share that.
Oh.
I thought that was our secret.
Sorry.
I do know a guy who said that when he discovered how much he enjoyed drinking his boyfriend's piss, that his boyfriend has never used a urinal since then.
Wow. That's a strong commitment to, like, you got to be like, honey, you got to get home right now.
Or, do they work at the same place? Like,
yeah, and could you just what happens if you drank your own piss and it was like a continue, it's like the snake eating its tail.
Oh, I thought that was like the masturbation of piss play is like drinking your own urine. You're like, this is fine, I can do it myself, but it's more fun with someone else.
I just wonder about like the logistics of it, because if you drink your own pee, then don't you still have to pee all that pee?
Yeah. Yeah.
Plus whatever other pee you have.
I think
we should ask Bear Grylls. He's hot.
He's been there. And so even though like after my boyfriend and I watched the porn and he got a blowjob, then we started like, it also opened up like this kind of conversation of like, oh, is that what you're into? And we were like, oh, not sure. And like, we both kind of landed on like, oh, like neither one of us is like ready, like off to the races, but it's like, oh, maybe like, so it kind of opened up some of our conversation about what we're both into, what we're open to, and, you know, what we might explore. So I also think that's a good thing about trying new things is even if it's not your kink or not your jam, you're like opening up that discussion and exploring it, which can be fun.
Ooh, jam. I wonder if there's a jam kink. Like spread strawberry and blueberry all over your face.
Most delicious.
Like making jam out of your cum.
Oh. Wow, we were both very excited by that. Whatever kink involves Ella, I'm in all the way.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. What you're saying though about talking to your partner about your kinks, I actually find, and I think this is a pretty universal experience, is that it's much easier to like talk to a stranger about what you're into because there's nothing online. Like if they're not into it, whatever, it's easy to move on versus like talking to someone that you actually really like, because there's a fear of judgment of like, if they're not into it or they're going to think you're gross because of it. And I think when we date people, we often tend to be really guarded about those things that really turn us on. When in actuality, like, I think if you have a communicative partner that's like interested in learning about you and discovering things together, those kind of conversations can lead to some like really fucking like hot sex.
Yeah. We're in a really cool place for me, which I've never been in, where we're like very willing to be open with each other and honest with each other. And I heard y'all talking about like jerking off, and like, so we tell each other when we jerk off, even if it's on our own or in the next room. So we're just like, we talk about what porn we like and we've watched porn together. So it's really open, and it's really nice to be able to feel okay telling someone something and not have that judgment. And they'll be like, oh, okay, like if you want to try that, great. Or, you know, just being receptive of that and not judgmental. So I think that's, what everyone should look for in a partner.
I remember seeing a profile on a site, and it was like I'm into, you know, like piss play, fisting, blood, shit, whatever, like this long list of things. And like, but if you want to be my boyfriend, then like forget about all the above.
Wow, he only wants to shit on strangers?
Well, I think it's like, he doesn't want, I think it was kind of speaking to that, like, I don't know, that kind of double standard that a lot of us have of if you're really with someone, then you're afraid to reveal that aspect of yourself.
Yeah, if it's with a stranger, I can do it and then kick them out, and then I never have to see them again, and face whatever judgment they might have around it.
Although I think without going into too much detail about it, my ex-husband held back a lot of his things that he was interested in for those reasons. And I think that led to part of our breakup, that he had all of these things that he wasn't communicating because he was ashamed or thought that I would think less of him or would reject him. And that kind of festers after a while.
And would you have thought that, like, would you have enjoyed like exploring that stuff with him and knowing what turns him on? Or
yeah, absolutely. I think so. I mean, it might not have been for me, or I might not have done it right, but at the very least, I would have tried to. I think we did try some things that he felt brave enough to bring, like Dom sub stuff, for instance. We did some role playing around that I didn't. It wasn't really for me, but he was so turned on by it that I then got turned on by it. So I think so. But when you start looking at like the stuff that was above the line in that profile that you were talking about, piss, blood, scat, whatever, the stuff that's maybe less mainstream or that you would expect more people would be kind of icked out by, maybe, he wouldn't have communicated those things.
Yeah. I think in probably the last like 3 to 6 months, I've gotten a lot better. Like even on Grindr, people always ask like, what are you into? Like, what are you looking for? And the standard answer is like, oh, I'm open to whatever, or like, I like anything. But I've gotten really kind of specific about the things that turn me on. And the response by other people has been like really like, oh, okay. Like, and if they're not into everything, like they'll let you know and kind of like flag the things that they are. But I think in general, it's been a good thing for the sex that I'm having, and has also, when I kind of put myself out there in that way that's vulnerable, it opens the door for them to kind of do the same. And I think in some instances, like if you are really into something and someone, maybe it's not their kink, but they're open to it, it's still fun for them to kind of explore it.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Anything else about Jock, Frot, Piss? Or can we get on to the questions?
Oh, one more thing that I really appreciated is there was no cum shot. So, it was super hot.
That wasn't the point.
They gave each other blowjobs. They, did a lot of stuff together, but they didn't come. And I like that because I think it's always the expectation, or that's what everyone's working towards. And that like really narrowly focuses your sex on something that may or may not happen. And if that's all you're in it for, then you might be let down, versus if you're open to like that might happen or it might not, then you're kind of more open to exploring other things. And I personally take antidepressants, and so that sometimes makes it either difficult to get hard or difficult to come. And sometimes I just don't want to work that hard, and so I don't have the like time it takes to like get all the way there. So seeing porn like this where that's not necessarily the end goal and they don't come, I really enjoyed that part of it.
Yeah, so that's something that's been kind of a struggle with us and like the content that we do. I think like what you're talking about, the expectation of cum has completely been conditioned in us as like gay men by the porn that we watch.
Yeah.
Because literally 99.9% of like porn videos end in a cum shot. And if there's not one, like people get really upset and like feel like they like didn't get to see something that's required. And I think the effect of watching porn after porn after porn, where when the cum shot happens, it ends. We even use like the word like finish as a synonym for ejaculation. Like, have you finished yet? Yeah. And like, it just keeps conditioning us to think that like sex needs to end in a cum shot. And it certainly is like one way to end sex. But like our perspective has always been like, if you do come, awesome. But like, why would that even need to be the end? Like there's plenty of things that you can do after you come. And so we've enjoyed playing with the variable of like, sometimes we put the cum shot at the beginning of the video. Sometimes it's at the end, sometimes it's in the middle, sometimes it's not anywhere in the video. And I think some people, to your point, are really inspired by how that's different. And I think some people are really frustrated by how that's different. And a lot of the feedback we've been getting is like, you need more cum in your videos. Like this is erotica. Like we need to see more cum. So that's been a struggle for us, is like figuring out what that balance is to like make people happy, but also let them realize that like an ejaculation is not necessary in every sexual instance.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And it puts a lot of pressure on guys. Like if you're not going to come and then you're going to hook up and then the guy gets upset and he feels like he didn't do a good job. And
part of that pressure can then cause you to not be able to come because you're putting all that pressure on yourself. So sometimes actually taking the pressure off and saying it doesn't matter either way actually helps you to come.
If someone says, when are you going to come?
Yeah. Then you're like,
never come.
Yeah. You're like, okay, I gotta like, then you do this thing that's like not fun, where you're just like going as hard as you can to just try to come to please him. And like, that's not fun for you. And
yeah.
A watched pot never orgasms.
Can we title that today's episode?
Yeah. Absolutely.
A watched pot never ejaculates.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So we're going to dive into some questions here. If you guys have questions at home, you can send them to Davey at daveywavy.tv. Someone in the live chat asked if you guys have a YouTube channel, by the way.
We do. youtube.com/Gayish Podcast.
But it's not like a Davey Wavy bar YouTube channel, but we're starting to branch out from our podcast and post some things with our shirts on.
And by Davey Wavy bar, you mean that you don't have a lot of age restricted videos that like
exactly
that people click on because they think are porn. Great. Question number 1. I'm a 22-year-old gay male who just recently embraced actually being young and going out. About a few days ago, I got frustrated with Grindr and Scruff, etc. Nothing wrong with these apps, but I noticed that it produced a lot of anxiety within me and I needed to take a break. So now I'm trying to meet guys in real life because Grindr and Scruff aren't real life. On apps, dealing with rejection is easy, but rejection in person is a lot more difficult. So what would your advice be for dealing with rejection in person? Well, none of us have ever dealt with rejection.
No. I was going to say just like find a really nice corner to cry into and like just really, no, I am the exact same way. So I totally have, I have anxiety about like walking into a new coffee shop. So I have lots of anxiety. I think one of the nice things is that remembering like if you get rejected, you put yourself out there and tried and it didn't work, but like that dude is going to forget in 5 seconds. Like he's going to go about his day and it's no one's like then going to think about it and talk about you in a day. Like everyone's just going to forget and move on. So it's like not that big of a deal to get rejected. It's not, it can feel like it is, but it's not life-changing. So I think once you kind of go through it and get rejected, then you realize, oh, I'll make it. I'll live to ask a different guy out. And at least I found more often than I thought, having the confidence to go up and walk to someone in real life now goes better than you would expect.
Don't you also feel like, I don't meet people in real life. I only use my apps. But what I've heard is that people are nicer in person. Like, I think the tendency for someone, like on Grindr, it's very easy if someone messages you to just not respond. Yeah. But like, if you walk up to someone in a bar and say like, hey, how are you? Like, they're not just going to stare blankly at you.
Yeah.
Unless it's West Hollywood.
That's it. Yeah. And like, yeah, you don't have to walk right up and be like, you're cute, let's go out. You can walk up to someone and be like, hey, what's up? And you'll know, pretty quickly if they're into it or not. And that's kind of like, it feels a little bit like it doesn't feel as big of a deal when you're just saying hello to someone.
Right.
And if it's like working and jiving, then ask them out. And if it's not, then you say, great to talk to you. See you later. And it was still a nice interaction that you had with someone new.
Yeah. They're not going to like turn around and just look at you and be like, block.
Yep.
You're blocked.
Block.
I think going back to the, sometimes the pressure of, are you going to come makes it not happen. If you are putting all this pressure on yourself to go out and you're going to get laid that night, that might make it not happen. Like just go out and be yourself and meet a whole bunch of people, cast a wide net and find that person that is into you and you're into them. Instead of walking in the door and drinking 4 drinks and then getting all up in your head about, am I going to go home or not?
Yeah, no, you're right. We had a tantra coach. I remember when we were doing one of our shoots, he had his like Grindr open or something and someone had rejected him. And he was like, he's like, I just love when a guy rejects me because it gives me the opportunity to get what I want from someone who's actually willing to give it.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, again, I wish I was there, but that sounds great.
I think sometimes like when I do the rejecting of someone, I realize that it's not because you're like, sometimes I reject someone because like, I'm really tired and I'm going to bed, or like, oh, I just found a guy to hook up with. So sorry. Like realizing that it's a rejection is not a statement of you are ugly or you are not worthwhile. Like there are a million reasons that someone might reject you. And it's not, it's not this deep thing that they're rejecting you as a person. They're just saying in this moment, this is not the right time for them.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean that like I live in Palm Springs and living here has taught me that like people are like every type of guy is a different form of sexy to someone else. And like, it doesn't mean that you're like, there's parties here where like you need to be 50 or 60 plus, like it's for older guys. Like that's who people are into. Like there's some guys you might hit up and they're not into you because they don't think your belly's big enough. Like there's a million different expressions of that. So hopefully some of this will help our little friend Zachary here. 22, just a little Gaby.
Congrats, Zach. I mean, it's just Zach. I don't know if you go by that. we're best friends now. You're Zach. But like the fact that he's 22 and like exploring that's really awesome. So also give yourself props for like you're doing that exploration right now. So
are you guys following each other on Instagram?
we are now.
Yeah. All right. Question number 2. My hole is too tight. No, I'm kidding. It's not.
Oh, let me give you all the answers to this.
It's actually the reverse of that, which is my dick is too big. And I was like reading this. I'm like, oh God, let me just cry you a river. My giant horse cock is just so big. I don't know what to do with it. Please help. So I guess call us, any of us.
We'll give you our personal lines after this.
I was going to say for this, like, first of all, there are people who really enjoy taking big dicks. I've filmed many of them for Himeros TV. So there are power bottoms out there. Find one of them and date them and they will love you for it. Also, if you find that it's too big, like to me, it's like a dick is only too big if you haven't taken the time to really open up the bottom properly. Yeah. And despite what we see in porn where they just kind of stick it in, like it could take you a half hour, 45 minutes, an hour to really open up a bottom and get him to relax. So it might not be that your dick is too big. It might just be that you need to spend a little bit more time, you know, with the bottom, using toys, using your fingers, using your tongue to really get him to open up.
Yeah, I was going to say that model in that porn had a massive butt plug in for an hour before they started shooting. That's why it went in so easy.
Right. Yeah. Or they just cut it so that like you just... Yeah, they just put it together.
I have, so as someone with a very tiny butt, I can take a giant dick, but you're absolutely right. Like, so even the tiniest buttholes can take a big dick if you, like what changed everything was, like you said about toys, like learning that like, okay, I have 3 sizes of butt plugs and I'm going to start with this little one. We're going to like make out. I'm going to put that in and then I'm going to let you put it in and out of me. And like, and then when I'm ready, we're going to go to the next size. Like you do have to be willing to put in a little bit more of that time to help the bottom out. But like all that time, like you're working up to it and it's getting hotter and hotter and you want it more and more. So it's getting more and more exciting to get to the point where you can actually like take it. So
I don't mean to laugh at you, but as you're describing the scenario with like the 3 butt plugs laid out in the different sizes, it feels to me a little bit like the Goldilocks of like, this one's too small.
Everyone has called it the Goldilocks of buttholes. So
Goldie Cocks.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh,
I love it. It's the perfect cock for my butt.
Be a porn.
My advice for Mr. Horsecock is to learn how to bottom.
How about that? Right? Yeah, if your dick's too big, like, great. Or explore other ways to have sex. Get a fucking flesh jack or something. And like, you don't just need to stick your dick in a butt.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hand jobs. I hear they're great.
Hand jobs are everyone's favorite.
Doesn't feel like anything like pulling a carrot out of the garden. That's what I love about them.
Yep.
All right. Our third and final question. This one's difficult. Yeah, this one's heavy. Okay, so let's dive right in. I'm gay and I'm married to a woman and I have children. I love her, but I'm not being honest with her or myself by living a lie. My heart is torn in 2 and I don't know what to do.
Whew.
I was like, we're just like a bunch of idiots on this podcast. Like we don't actually have like good advice.
Although Mike has a little bit of experience in this arena.
I was married to a woman for 5 years. And all of that, I came out when I was 30 and we got divorced because I'm gay. And I think
no kids.
No kids. Thank goodness. I know that obviously will complicate this situation in a way that I can't begin to understand.
Yeah.
But you aren't doing anyone any favors by not being your authentic self. You love her, and I believe that. And you don't totally love her in a way that she deserves. And she isn't loving you while you're holding this secret. She's not loving all of you. There's a big piece missing there. And I really, having gone through that experience, I think that both of us knew that. We knew that there was something wrong. We knew that there was something wrong the entire time. And there's no substitution for living your full authentic life and it's going to suck and it's going to be painful, but it's worth it in the end to come to terms with it.
Do you and your wife still have a like a friendship?
No,
okay,
we don't. And I wonder if we could now, though, if that makes sense. It ended pretty. It was messy. It was messy when it ended.
Yeah. It seems to me that like, well, it's also really easy to like sit here and like be completely separated from this experience and like espouse advice, but that like if you really do love each other in a deep, like unconditional way, that and there's kids involved, that like maybe there's not a way for you guys to like maintain some sort of friendship or connection, but like maybe there also is, like maybe it's not all or nothing. That I know a lot of people in Palm Springs who were married and are best friends with their ex-wives. Like that connection, I would say, I guess, changed or evolved, but that they're still part of each other's lives. And then of course, there's also instances where they're not.
And
go ahead.
Oh, I was also thinking, like, also recognizing that the situation you're in, like, it'd be easy. I think recognizing like society put you in that place through the way that they forced you into being who you thought
you needed to
be. And so relieving yourself of a little bit of that, like any kind of guilt or blame, because like, you are where you are because of the people's lack of acceptance, and society has forced you into that. So it really sucks being in that position and feeling like you can't be yourself and being forced into some of these things. So like Mike said, you love your kids, you love your wife, and it'll be super hard to get there. But once you get to living and being who you are, it's worth the journey, the struggle, the downs, the pain. It'll be worth it to get there.
It's your marriage too. That's the other thing. It's your marriage and your family. If maybe you want to stay a nuclear family and stay married and open up your relationship sexually in some way, or there are other arrangements, and it's yours to figure out. Nobody can tell you what to do with your life. I will tell you though, be in therapy. Go to therapy. If not with your wife, then for yourself, because there's so much involved in the psychology of being that guy. You need help with it. You need help navigating it. And that's what a good therapist will do.
It also seems to me that like if you do come out, and that does mean that your relationship with your wife changes, that like given that you have kids, it seems to me that that's actually a very powerful example to set for your children, is that like being your true self. I think that's I don't know. It's tough, right? But I saw a documentary not too long ago. I actually interviewed this guy who was 95, and he had just come out of the closet, and he and his wife were still like together and married. And the documentary is actually that they made about his experience was actually really sad. And it was sad for him because he felt like there was all this time that like he could never get back. When I interviewed him, I was like, what do you want to do now that you're out? Like, you want to go to Pride? Like, I'm like making all these stupid jokes. Like, what's your type? Like, you into Zac Efron? And he's like, what the hell is a Zac Efron? and he like looked at me, and he's like, what? And he had a thick accent. He's like, what I want is to like feel another man's body against my chest, and to like know that he loves me. And I was like, that's what we all want. And
too real.
It's too real. And I said something like that. And he's like, yeah. He's like, but you're a young boy. He's like, I'm an old man who wants a wrinkled old man like me. And I was like, come to Palm Springs. There's plenty of people. But the thing that was even more upsetting, that like that he felt like he had all this time he couldn't get back, was really his wife. And to your point earlier, like she was kind of the like unsung victim in all this, because she does deserve to be with someone who loves her in the way that she wants to be loved. And like with her husband being gay, I'm sure he was a great husband and did a lot of wonderful things for her, but like he wasn't loving her in that way. And now she's, you know, also like 95 and like I don't want to say that he, like, because of his inability to come out, like, didn't just make his life difficult, but also someone else's life difficult, but he kind of did.
Yeah. And again, like, that society made him, you know, be in that relationship. So like, we have to remember, like, the people's homophobia and prejudice against us forces us into these things that are not the best way for us to live our happiest lives.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was a deep question. That made me get sweaty in the pits. All right. So next week we not you guys, but we'll be back to our regularly scheduled programming. We'll be talking about The Deep Feast, which is a tantric sex game to play with your lovers. In the meantime, make sure you join us on himeros.tv with a 20% discount at himeros.tv/pod. himeros.tv/pod. And where can people get more of you guys?
You can search for Gayish on any podcasting app, and you can find our episodes and listen to them from the beginning.
iTunes and Google Play.
Thank you guys for being here.
And you're going to be on our show on September 6th.
Oh, duh. Yeah, I totally am.
So check us out, if nothing else, for the episode where Davey Wavy is going to talk about more gay sex.
I was just going to say, what's the topic?
We have to do a lot of preparation for this gay sex.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gay porn.
Preparing my whole life for this moment.
Gay porn. We're talking about gay porn.
What is it? Is it gay porn?
Definitely gay porn.
Okay.
Gay porn.
Not like healthcare or like prison reform or geopolitics.
We can do the geopolitical influence of international relations on gay porn.
On gay porn. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in. And as always, more to come.